Hello, this is Sarah Newton, and this is my Theory to Practice project for Language Arts Methods for Spring 2016. I'd like to start with my philosophy for language arts instruction. My own experiences were varied when it came to language arts and shaped how I want to teach. The first is that I hope to instill a love of reading in my students, just like any teacher, of course. Growing up, I loved books and being read to all through my elementary school years. I don't think that any elementary grade is too old for a read aloud because students can benefit from hearing a teacher read fluently and with expression, and it also opens up the opportunity for students to be exposed to higher level text than they can read themselves, coming with it new ideas and vocabulary. Secondly, I want to be careful with how I use reading as an assessment. Students absolutely need to be assessed on their reading so their teacher can know what their skills and struggles are. This must also be done from several angles and often to be effective, increasingly so if the student requires reading intervention. Because the ability to read encompasses so many different abilities from phonemic awareness to fluency to comprehension and even to writing, which I believe is a necessary component to any reading program. With this said, however, not everything a student reads must be an assessment. When I first heard this idea, everything in my middle years of education made sense. For me, as a student, I lost the joy of reading because it meant that I was always being assessed and having to give presentations I dreaded and read books on a schedule that didn't fit my pace. Contradicting myself again, these things are important and I did learn, but the volume of reading-centered work was too much. I want my students to know that we're learning to read for academic reasons, the projects and presentations, and that we're also learning to read so we can enjoy a good story. Ideas like Just Right Reading or Time to Read Aloud bring back the opportunity for students to explore the joys of reading, a very important part of any curriculum. These ideas translate well into the instructional structures such as Daily 5, which I will talk about later on. The second part of my philosophy for language arts is that it should reach into other subject areas because it can both enhance the students' language arts knowledge and add life and purpose to the other subject areas, while facilitating the display of knowledge. Students might write from the point of view of a historical figure. This works on point of view, convention, and furthers writing ability in language arts, and in social studies requires the students to engage with the material and show that they understand the person's life enough to write from their view. In science, they can work on their speaking by presenting results they have found, which must be clear and sequenced logically with transitions between different parts. This academic skill is often taught through book talk presentations, as was my experience, but bringing the concept into science or other content areas not only strengthens the content areas, but it frees up the students' reading to sometimes be just for the practice and enjoyment, not for the presentation, reflecting back on my hope that students will enjoy reading. By extending language arts into the rest of the school day, you have a variety of opportunities to strengthen the students' speaking, listening, viewing, and discussing abilities, which happen through presentations of information, working with others on language arts skills relative to the subject area, and collaboration on anything happening in the classroom. Language arts are the key to everything. One further extension of this topic is that it can be accomplished through a variety of mediums. Students might write on paper or computer, display their knowledge or work through a poster board or PowerPoint, or gather information from a textbook or website. The sources of information and platforms for creation are vast and ever-growing. A teacher who is able to give their students the chance to work with many mediums helps to set them up for the future by giving them a well-rounded education. This variety of possibilities for incorporating, teaching, and strengthening students' language arts skills fits well with the use of the Common Core. I see the Common Core as a useful tool for teachers to use in order to know what skills and information their students need, what elements you as a teacher should introduce in order to reach those skills, and how this fits into the student's larger educational career. This can help teachers provide an effective education for students that will both serve them in their learning that year and into their futures. So, how will this look in the classroom? This layout is one that I made that reflects several of the classrooms I have worked in, working to create different areas where students could work either individually or as a class. The first area is the desks in pods or groups, which could be accomplished with tables or desks depending on what is available. An important part of school is that students learn to work with others, working on communication and interpersonal skills. This also lends itself to many management techniques and procedures I can implement in the classroom. Next is the location of the projector. Ideally, I would also have a table and document camera in the place where I have put the projector, as to be at the same level of my students and involved with them. Document cameras allow the whole class to access more information, and for me as a teacher to be part of the discussion rather than turning to a whiteboard. There's a place for small groups on the table in the back, which can serve students or the teacher working with small groups or to individuals. There is a desk for the teacher where instruction does not happen and storage in that area. The back of the classroom is a multi-purpose area, partly a teacher storage area, partly library and rug area. I remember from my education the classrooms that had large, accessible libraries, and it was so much fun to go back to get a book and choose whatever you wanted from the library, especially since the library was yours while you were in the class. It will take time, but I hope to collect a big library one day. Next to the shelves where my magic library will be is a rug. This rug could be set up in two ways and possibly transition between the two depending on the furniture in use. First is the way it is set up now, with chairs and beanbags, just a place for students to be comfortable and out of their chairs to read silently, work in groups, or work with a teacher or another adult working in the room. The section option is that it serves as a meeting place for the class. There wouldn't be any furniture there besides somewhere for the teacher to sit and likely a whiteboard and easel. Next, I'll talk about the daily schedule. I plan to teach reading, writing, and other language arts content in the morning, leaving the afternoon when students need to be moving and talking more to subjects like science and math. As I mentioned earlier, with my philosophy for language arts instruction, programs or routines like the Daily 5 can help facilitate students working on many different aspects of language arts, while avoiding exhausting their enjoyment of reading by giving them options and variation with time to just enjoy reading mixed in. Students' options will fall into categories similar to read to self, read to someone else, which could be the teacher for assessment purposes, listen to reading, writing work, and word work. If the class works on this each day, they will be able to do one of these each and every week. It could follow a set plan, or it could go in any other pattern the student chooses, as long as they do each and every task every week. This choice can make a huge difference in student motivation and thus learning. Finally, there are many learning theories in the world of education, many of which have very good points or ideas about how people learn that teachers can add to their bank of knowledge to best support their students. One theory that I made a connection to early on in my teacher education was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and as I have continued and had more experiences, my connection has evolved. The first connections I made came from the theory making sense in children's lives, both at school and at home. I knew that it was important to have a safe environment in order for children to feel comfortable and to be successful in school, and that for some children it would be even more important than others, depending on the lives they had outside of school. My later experiences, however, have cemented the value I see in this theory being put into practice with the children I have worked with and the situations I have been in. I still want to provide a safe environment for students that helps satisfy their needs, that way they can learn. But I realize now that it is not just feeling safe that the students need, and as a teacher I might be someone who will listen so they feel included, or students might not be getting enough to eat at home, and I will try to help in ways I can. I feel that education is best presented to students when it is scaffolded, and sometimes I will need to build in steps that do not relate to the content, but rather satisfy the students' basic needs. The second theory is one I recently learned about and fits well with the experiences I've had and the ideas I've formed, particularly when working with older students. Cognitive apprenticeship is all about the support you give students and coaching them through various stages of dependence until they are able to work independently. In my own experience with kindergartners, this theory doesn't apply as much because they need continuous support and management in both behavior and academics because they are still learning how to simply be in school and function in the classroom. When I worked with third graders, however, the coaching was different. They were able to reach a level of independence that the younger students weren't able to. With cognitive apprenticeship, the cycle of coaching doesn't end, but rather evolves with the students as they become more familiar with their actions and the content they are working with. I had similar ideas to this prior to learning about cognitive apprenticeship, but having this theory to work off of, I feel that I have gained a more founded idea of what I saw and how my teaching is affected by those experiences and understanding. At the end of the day or at the end of the year, I hope that I was able to combine the ideas I have heard, read, experienced, and dreamed of to give my students a valuable time in my classroom that strengthened their skills, taught them to be learners, and showed them that they are capable and cared for, and of course, helped them love reading.